Charles Darwin, did you know that he was prone to seasickness? And that's the reason that the beagle would often put into a port so that he could rest on dry land. And it was during one of those journeys when the beagle put in a port in Chile that Darwin made an amazing observation. He was the first person ever to record the antics of the vampire bat, how it lapped up blood after making a little bite in an animal. No, they don't suck blood. But why were they called vampire bats? Back in 1790, George Shaw, an English zoologist, had named the creature because of stories that he had heard emerging from Eastern Europe about vampires. Well, of course, the classic story would be written in 1897, and that was Count Dracula rising from the dead to torment the living. Became very, very popular story, eventually made into plays and stage productions of all kinds and number of movies, obviously most famous one starring Bela Lugosi as Count Dracula. It was also the Dracula story that first brought up this notion of the vampire changing into a bat. And that was kind of unfortunate for bats because it gave them a bad image. Why unfortunate? Because they're not evil creatures. In fact, they have all kinds of uses. Bats are great pollinators, and they also produce a lot of poop from which fertilizer can be extracted. So I think we should not be unhappy when encountering a bat. In fact, we should look at them with some degree of admiration. Well, there's something else about bats that is very interesting and why scientists are keen to study them. Generally, in case of mammals, the larger the animal, the longer it lives. Elephants, for example, live a very long time, whereas mice, which are much smaller, live, of course, just a couple of years. But bats are an exception. Bats, which are, of course, roughly the size of a mouse, can live up to 40 years. The question is, why? There's a lot of research done on this, and it turns out that when the bat cells multiply to produce new bats, there is not as much chromosomal damage as there is when other types of cells multiply. Nobody knows exactly why. Maybe it has to do with the telomeres, these caps on the end of the chromosomes, that for bats don't unravel the same way as for other creatures when their cells multiply. So we're going to learn a lot from these creatures about possibility of reducing our risk of aging. Now, I don't think that we're going to be immortal like Count Dracula, but we are going to learn a lot of science from bats. Already, bat saliva has been shown to produce a compound that is effective as an anti-blood clotting agent, and it is being used in medicine. And guess what this compound has been called? It's called Draculin.